I got it. Going around, yeah. I think so. It shut everything down, that's for sure. Sampler.
I know.
Yep. I know, that's what Cheryl was saying. She's just like, I don't know how you people are even upright. Through nothing that youth and caffeine can't handle.
Yeah, notice Butler was.
Huh?
Talking about.
Yeah.
I have a problem.
True.
Otherwise, we'll have to bring Ozzy back.
Yep.
He's our go-to. We threaten him all the time.
He's not taking the bait.
Oh,
Last
he's
couple
not.
times we tried.
He's a good sport about it.
All right, everybody, let's call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee. It is July 23rd. We have a quorum present, and we're certified and compliant with the open meetings laws. We've got a public comment up at first. Anybody, any takers? All right. Then right into communications and presentations.
Well, the first one you've got is just the email on the Department Revenue and Expenditures, just showing that it went out. We know we got asked the question, is it going out to the respective committees? We haven't had time to look at that yet, but it's still on our radar. Any questions on that topic? The unclaimed properties PowerPoint, that was excerpts from a slide deck that I did recently on unclaimed funds. So it's just put there for informational only, nothing you have to do, just education.
It was interesting to see that process spelled out.
Well, it's different for municipalities versus counties, and I actually had 45 people attending this webinar, so there's a lot of questions that come up, obviously. So I like to try and give them some reports and don't reinvent the wheel. Any questions on that topic at all? Okay, the closing memo on the debt issue, everything went smoothly on July 16th. The bond amount actually lowered, I'm going from memory, about $60,000. They had a premium, so we restructured things a little bit to have less debt issued. So we were only at $12,990 instead of $13,100, I believe it was. So again, this is just informational only, but if you have any questions, we can certainly try and answer them.
Dave, what rate did we land on? I know we had a range, but
I neglected to look at the true interest cost, but looking at the payment schedule, almost all the first 15 years were at 5%, and then it drops to 4% in the future. They gave us, I believe, $800,000 in premium, so that helps offset the cost.
okay.
I can get back to you folks via email what the true interest cost was.
Anybody have interest in seeing that? Otherwise, I don't want to task Dave with things he doesn't need to do. Don't worry about it.
Okay. The last one is the budget memo. I modified it a little since folks, we talked about this last time. At Tim's suggestion, we put in some graphicals because some supervisors do prefer graphs as opposed to written. A couple things that I want to point out. Nicole Maria and I were walking through the general transportation aids, and the original memo from 2 weeks ago suggested possibly using 150,000 of the property tax levy, transferring it to TID. I've taken that off the table now because this is a continuous drop in revenue for general transportation aids. It's going to take us till year 2030 to get back to the levels that we have for 25. So next year is going to be the worst drop, and then after that it'll improve. The other thing, and Tim, if you can just go to the last page, second to last page. Put in some suggestions, which I am asking the council to look at. Instead of having committee of the whole meetings, just have the common council working on it, and I put the proposed dates for the discussion of budget for council. And those are the 4 bullet points at the bottom of that page. Anybody have any concerns with that? Again, I'm looking for some direction at council, but I think that would be a time saver to everybody rather than trying to attend multiple meetings. Because we usually have a problem getting quorum at committee of the whole.
I mean, I know at sometimes we've had lengthy discussions about different things that have been in CIP in there. So on one hand, I worry a little bit about being able to balance council business plus adding that if that were in the same
Well,
meeting.
Nope, the CIP, I'm not proposing any changes. It's still going to be the ad hoc CIP committee working on the CIP projects. This is more the operational side.
Yep.
And I believe I said at the last meeting, with the current levy limit laws, we need to tax to the max. So it's not like, of course, you could do less than taxing to the max, but you're hurting yourself in subsequent years. So by taxing to the max, then it's looking at what the mayor proposed budget is. And I'm just going to make up an example. The mayor added 3 new crossing guards for senior center. And you guys may say, I'm not going to do that, or vice versa. If you want to add 3 crossing guards for a senior center, where are you going to cut? That sort of thing. So that's really the operational budget.
Okay. And while I was saying it, I was reading one thing and saying a different thing.
Okay.
So that's where I was going, but because I just read across CIP, so that's why I said that. But we still have had discussions about, and I think that was probably before we took the personnel issues into personnel committee, and then we took some of the other issues into this committee, or the other operational issues to this committee, and then each of us recommended parts of that package into the council. So.
And
I mean, I don't see any issue with saving a little bit of time on meetings for that, but.
And I know AJ, it was either today or yesterday, sent everything out to department heads for their getting requests for additional personnel. So I'm assuming personnel committee will review those mid-August.
Yep. Anybody have anything else on that they want to add in? No, time savings on meetings are always good. Patrick?
Not dealing with the meeting schedule at all. This is just a real minor thing. In the section where you talk about the GTA,
Yes.
I think there's a date error. The last sentence of the second paragraph said it's projected the city won't return to the 2025 GTA revenue levels until 2023.
Yeah, that should have been 2030.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. That's
Thank you for catching my error. That's for the next quarter to work on that. Right after I get my crystal ball working for the budget.
We can just, I mean, you know, it can just be a simple goal. We only need lottery numbers out of it. That's it.
And certain Packer victories.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And world peace?
Well, yeah, that's true. Packer victories may promote world peace.
Okay, we'll go with that. Any other questions on that topic? Think I'm done till item number 7.
All right. Well, we'll be quick about it then. Next bid up is approval of minutes from July 9th meeting. Is anyone, motion by Greg, is there a second? Second by Ozzy. Any edits, questions? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, minutes are accepted. Sorry, Dave, that was only like maybe a minute and a half.
That's okay, I had a chance to take a drink. Just like in the past, I don't have any additional comments that I wanted to make on any of the reports. Nicole Marie added comments where she felt it's appropriate. I added a few, but she caught a lot of things that I'd be talking about too. So I'll open up the floor to you folks to see if you have any questions.
Nobody's jumping at it. Nope, you guys do comment in areas where, you know, absolutely it would have been like, yeah, I might have asked a question or two around that, but
Right.
you beat us to the chase on it, and
I'm glad to hear that you folks appreciate it.
for sure. I mean, it prevents a lot of head scratching and figuring out like, well, where am I going to look to find this supporting information? And,
Right.
you know, it's just there in a 2-line blurb, like, yep, here it is.
And
So,
in our case,
helpful.
when we're looking at things, if it's like, okay, that seems strange to us, then we look it up and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Or, yep, that's an error, we got to fix it.
Okay, nope, it's all good, and we certainly do appreciate the comments that you guys put on the reports.
Thank you.
All right, anybody have any questions on any of the reports presented? All right, and we're going to move into the first resolution as an agreement for pro forma analysis and cost reimbursement agreement, J.T. Klein Incorporated.
This seems to be a standard with Ellers getting asked to look at the TIF requests. J.T. Klein recently provided us the request, so we're asking the council to give us authority to work with Ellers. And J.T. Klein has already indicated that they've worked with Ellers in the past, so they're used to what questions will get answered.
And we have 2 representatives. We have J.T. Klein is here, and then Kevin O'Donnell is online. There's materials in your packet that support the resolution. Kevin, did you want to introduce the project?
Absolutely, I can jump in on that. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I apologize, I wasn't able to make it in person. My family.
Can't hear him at all now.
I know Jacob's there in person, and he'll be able to kind of jump in
There we
and
go.
introduce the project at the same time. But last week we formally submitted an application for a project that is in
Cutting in and out.
Yeah, we can't hear you now, Kevin. We lost you.
He froze.
Okay, yeah, you can just come up and push the button then. JT's gonna run us through it, Kevin, until you can get some volume back. And just push the button there.
Sorry,
There you go.
if I can, for a second.
Okay, well, I'm JT Klein, actually Jacob Klein. I just used my initials for the company. Wasn't really going out on a limb, I guess, but so I started JT Klein Company in 2014. Prior to that, I worked for a company out of Minneapolis, did affordable housing and senior housing around Wisconsin. Then started my own company. I'm originally from the west side of Madison, went to high school at Edgewood. So it's really, always been a goal for me to move back to Madison with the family. My wife's from Madison too. And we've been fortunate enough to really be on, a successful run of multifamily development here in Dane County. As I'm sure you guys hear about all the time, there's a huge shortage of housing everywhere you go in the county, particularly affordable housing. The programs that WIDA has to help develop affordable housing, I've worked with for 20 years. Since starting the company, we've done about 1,000 units now in Dane County, if you count what we have under construction at Westgate. If you're not familiar with our company, 3 years ago, I purchased the Westgate Mall, and we just finished our first phase there, which is 305 units, which is a 156-unit market rate building, an 80-unit affordable senior, and a 68-unit affordable family. I've got 5 projects that are affordable projects I've developed in Middleton over the last 12 years. I'd welcome you guys to reach out to anybody in the city of Middleton to talk about. If you have any questions about our company and how those deals have gone for the city. Obviously, since we've done 5 of them, I think that track record probably speaks for itself. I think we've got a really great reputation here in Dane County for delivering these projects that are high quality, that you wouldn't notice the difference between our building or a market rate building next door. They're managed efficiently. We use Oak Brook Corporation, which is based in Madison and manages about 7,000 units. And so this is what we do for a living. We've loved Stoughton as a market, but unfortunately with how WIDA kind of has annually set up its scoring, it makes it really, really difficult to do housing here, because without having public bus service, that's a 5-point category, and it basically is a threshold item, so it's essentially a non-starter, to get any of these competitive tax credits. Meanwhile, Dane County, I think, has given away invested $40 million, I think, so far in affordable housing in the county, and a lot of that just gets drawn into Madison, unfortunately, for some of the surrounding cities like yourself, Marshall, some of the other, Oregon, some of the other suburbs that without the bus service, it makes this really, really difficult to do. So, the real question is, how to make these types of projects feasible. We already have to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Chicago applications for $6 million in grants for the project, and we intend to submit to Dane County for the senior portion of this project for some of their funds, and then we're here hoping that the city, this being in a relatively newly created TIF, that we can work with the city to help bring a really great affordable project to the city of Stoughton. The project itself will have 60 units of affordable senior housing with a general income range of, say, $25,000 for the 30% units, up to maybe, I think it's 60-some thousand for the 80% units. So a band of 30% of the AMI, 50%, and 80%. We can get back to you guys with information on, a chart to show you exactly, what it is, if that's something you're, interested in as well. But then there's currently in our design, we've got 2 separate 36-unit family buildings. So in total, 132 units, which is what I think the site is zoned for. My eyes are not the greatest, to be honest with you, but I think it's generally in what you're looking at here in the center, there's 3 buildings. I don't think it'll be the exact, I don't think we're going to have that layout, but that configuration exactly, but generally it's in the west end development, which has had some single-family homes, I think, built, and it looked like some duplexes, as well as some initial phase apartments across the street. So those apartments are something we won't compete with. We think that there's a very, very strong demand, especially on the affordable senior side. I really think that this market has a lot of a lot of potential for the affordable senior housing, and as well as the family, because like I said, we found going into cities outside of Madison, we did a project in Fitchburg as well. That's 120 units, kind of back by the Hy-Vee. These markets outside of Madison, the demand for affordable housing is huge, and these fill up even a lot faster than our Madison buildings do. So that's probably enough of me. I'm happy to answer any questions. Kevin, I don't know if you guys know Kevin. Kevin's my director of development. He's actually from Stoughton. He lives here in Stoughton. I know he's been talking with some of you, so this was his week to be on vacation, so he's in northern Wisconsin somewhere, so I get we have technical things there, but if there's questions for him, they can be directed to him. Otherwise, I'm here as well.
Thank you for being here. And it might be in here, but I didn't see it. So it sounds like it'll be for both seniors and non-seniors. Do you have a certain number for seniors versus non-seniors? Is there a percentage, or?
We have
one entire building that would be 60 units in total. So one of the 3 buildings would be dedicated for seniors.
Was it 1 out of 3? I'm sorry, it's still hard to hear you.
60 units, one building, 60 units for seniors, and then 2 separate 36-unit buildings. So 72 units total for non-senior and 60 total for senior. And as we kind of work through the process, that might, it might move a couple here or there, but that's generally, we're kind of, my understanding is we're kind of limited to the 132 density that was approved, and so that's what we're thinking. And we got Baker Tilly do a market study that supported a very strong demand for this type of housing here in Stoughton.
And then just another question. It sounds like weed is off the table because of our lack of transportation, or are you still able to at least apply? Or
so WEDA is really has 3 different projects that all fall into like the affordable housing, like low-income housing tax credit world. So one would be like the most equity, which would be like a 9% tax credit deal. Those are the most competitive. The state, maybe 5 years ago, and this is how we did Westgate, adopted a state tax credit. So that is another competitive process. So a state 4% credit with a federal 4% credit probably gets you to like, let's call it 7-ish% equity. So you're going from like 9 in this one to like 7 in kind of this blended form. And then there's also a 4% fixed credit that is non-competitive. Okay. And so it's by right, and then they need to be, as part of that, you need to finance the project with tax-exempt bonds. And so like we would go to like Dane County Housing Authority, they would issue bonds. The bonds would be bought by a bank, but the credits would be still from WEDA, non-competitive, and I don't remember off the top of my head what exactly it makes up as a percentage of the financing stack, but it's a pretty significant portion still.
Great, thank you.
Sure. So a couple things I'll just add, and I have toured your facility in Middleton. We had a housing tour with Dane County a few years back, and you were in the midst of building one, and I think you had another one on deck. So I was really impressed with the workmanship and just kind of the whole philosophy as far as building these things to last for the long term. So you did things like, what is it? Is it LVM? I always get that. The flooring?
Yeah, we did, LVP throughout.
LVP,
I mean, we do granite countertops, we do stainless steel appliances. We've been putting 40 kilowatts of solar on every building. Like, about 20% of the units we are installing EV chargers that even if you're not getting, I mean, even if they're not getting used now, I mean, at some point that's probably going to be a reality, you know? And I think, you know, my philosophy has been, and that was great to hear because that's the first building I did starting this company, and I think we've came a long way in our design even since then, but it's kind of been our philosophy. We're not vertically integrated, like we don't have our own construction company. A lot of people that do this have construction companies, you know, so we're taking and putting a lot more dollars into the building because we're not taking construction fees out of the project, if that makes sense. So like, you know, if I think you can definitely see in the finishes that difference between building it to last and knowing that you have to own these things for 15 years. So we've always thought, well, it's easy for somebody to just build one across the street from you in 5 years. Your rents are the same. You know, you kind of have to be proactive in protecting it for that period of time because 15 years is a long time.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would add is you might recall if you've been on finance or council for a while that when we went through and created this TIF district, initially we thought we were going to have a 9% WIDA tax deal out there, and it is described, it just didn't score high enough in the points. So we're optimistic that the numbers will work, and what we're asking for tonight is really the recommendation to council and then ultimately the council to authorize us to move forward with Ellers to do those calculations based on the information they've provided us, and then also enter into the cost reimbursement agreement, which has been routine here lately. So that's what we're looking for as far as the action item tonight. But I just really wanted to highlight that we know that Rosewood is under new ownership, and they do have a tax credit deal in one of the buildings that expires at the end of 2025. So we're concerned about those residents there and really the additional need for these types of housings, not only in our community, but Dane County. There was numbers that came out in the last couple of weeks where Dane County is saying we're building about 4,000 units a year, and we'd have to build 7,000 units a year for 10 years to meet the demand. So there certainly, is a housing crisis. Infrastructure is one of the things I'm concerned about is if we're going to continue to add housing in Dane County, we have to be able to have the roads and bridges and everything that we need, the broadband and those types of things to support these developments. Fortunately, in Stoughton, we have pretty good and new infrastructure, especially on the west side. So I think this would be a welcome addition to our community.
Yeah, that would have been my only follow-up question, would have been, or off of yours, where they were with that other affordable housing. So I thought they were going to reapply for that one, but that one must not have come through, or they didn't seem it was worth it.
No, they decided to focus on the east side and that building there this year.
Got it.
And then if there's other opportunities, moving forward, they might look, but more than likely they'll be market rate. And I would say that that company has done a workforce housing in Oregon, but that's their only one where, Mr. Klein has demonstrated all the projects that they've done throughout Dane County. So I think they've got certainly the experience and the horsepower to do this project.
Yep. All right, anybody have any other questions or? All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you.
Kevin?
So as I mentioned, the action item would be the resolution.
Yep. The resolution is presented for Ellers to look at the pro forma analysis and cost reimbursement agreement for this project. Anybody make a motion recommend that to council?
I'll make the motion to recommend that to council, the
All right.
resolution. I don't think we have a number on it
We
yet.
don't have a number on it, but motion by Lisa, second by Greg. Any other questions on that? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council. Later tonight, that's on a time-sensitive one, so you'll see that in a little, another half hour. All right, next up is another resolution for the shared ride services fund balance policy.
The impetus of this resolution was actually Baker Tilly, because they had indicated that without council action, any fund balance on a special revenue fund would relapse to the general fund. And so, although the dollar amounts are not large, the investment earnings we're proposing to keep in the shared revenue, or the shared ride services fund, that would hopefully offset future fare increases.
All right, does anybody have any questions on this one? I mean, we know this one was, where these were kind of, it's been on our radar for a little bit, or we've been talking about it a little bit, so any questions on this specific resolution? All right, anybody willing to make a motion on this one?
I'll move for approval.
All right, motion by Patrick. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Second by Ozzy. Any other questions on this one? Greg, you got one? Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that resolution to council. Next up is a discussion and possible action regarding revenue collection and write-off policy.
If you remember, sometime in the past couple months, we had been discussing the municipal court receivables, and you had directed that finance create a policy for both municipal courts and other things. So I got a copy of City of Fitchburg's recently adopted policy. Nicole Marie went through and took what were the best things out of there and developed the policy. I did a few small tweaks, but she did a really good job on it. So I guess I'm opening up the floor to you folks. Do you have any questions? Should we go forward with a resolution at a subsequent meeting for the policy, or anything else you folks want to direct us to do?
To me, this one hit on a lot of the things that we talked about in the meetings prior, and addressed a lot of those, especially with timelines, time limits, where we go from this to that. So I think that this looks good as a policy. Anybody else have any other thoughts or on this one? But I think this hit the buttons that of what we're looking for, and it would make it will make it clearer. Again, when we're dealing with like municipal court things, or what do we do with, this has been on the books for so long and we can't do anything about it anyway, so.
Right.
Just one.
Lisa?
Just a question, and maybe it's in here, but I'm just thinking about just the volume of these. So is this on a spreadsheet? Is it on a tickler file? Like, who's going to have to be combing through this and say, oh, we've hit 5 years in one day?
Well, we've got the data from the courts as of December 31st. And it's an Excel format, so we'd be sorting by date, and assuming this policy is passed by council, we would be then saying to the courts, okay, these 720 claims, the city is writing off. We recommend clerk of courts do the same thing.
And that report will probably shrink a lot after you have this policy? Because I remember there's some really old ones, so it might not look so overwhelming once this policy is in place, I imagine.
We have some claims out there that are old enough to legally drink.
Yeah, I remember some old ones, so I thought that it probably, I'm hoping this will make that report a lot smaller and more manageable.
Yep, and it's from the viewpoint of the fiscal effect of the city, I don't think it's going to be a large effect because I stole Fitchburg's bad debts reserve calculation, and they use Baker Tilly also. So the really old claims have 100% bad debts reserve set up. So all we're doing is decreasing the reserve and decreasing the receivable for those. Any other questions, comments, anybody? Yes.
Dave, so obviously then you feel that this would be an advantage to you and your staff, correct?
Yes,
As written?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Then I think we should go forward with it, and then you'll bring it as a resolution in the next meeting? Okay, I'm all in favor of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that.
I agree too. I do have one quick question. I do remember seeing that spreadsheet with the old debts. Do you have an estimate of what that initial write-off would be? Do you remember?
I do not. I know Nicole Marie was working on updating that spreadsheet when I think I had done everything up through 7 years as an arbitrary number. She's working on getting that new pivot table through 5 years. So when we bring the resolution forward, I think what we'll have in the fiscal note is just some high-level numbers for everybody to know what the fiscal effect is.
Because to Alder Reeves' point, I think the initial number will probably be largish, but then if you look at future years, it'll be a much smaller figure.
Correct. Go ahead.
Are you sure? There was your chance.
It was just in a spreadsheet and it got converted to a sheet, so I'm not sure the
Yep.
status, but it will get updated, that's all.
Okay. I've done that same thing, converted them in and like, wait a minute. What happened? Anyway. All right, you have enough guidance on that? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Nope, I think that will be a good policy addition for sure. All right, that runs us through our business at hand, and I believe that one also removes one of our future agenda items, I think, too.
No, there's still other fund balance policies.
Well, I know that, but I mean, I think this was one item that we had in there that we were gonna deal with. Or maybe it was just a mental note that we had up for,
Probably just a mental note.
oh, dang, thought we were gonna get one of these off there. Anyway,
The original intent was to modify the fund balance policy for all funds at the same time. Time constraints haven't allowed for that, so if we do it piecemeal and then kind of consolidate everything together,
Sure.
that would be better.
all right, just if we go by a piecemeal one, just, make sure to reference back to the other ones so that we have common language all the way through.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Nobody else wants to add any more future agenda items, right? Good, good, good. All right, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Greg, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ozzy. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.